Starting it. Yes. Everything you
And
say is a story, so I have to record it.
I went to the centenary of the RIMC.
Oh, right, right. Yes.
One of the RIMC old boys who plays golf in Jalandhar
Uh,
is wearing this type of hat, and
uh,
he had a bag, and he pushed out another hat for me and said, "This is for you." I
okay.
said, why do you want to give it to me? He
Uh,
says, because I've been here every year and I've seen you, and you don't have a hat like this.
oh,
It's very good for playing golf in the hot weather
hmm.
because it's made of a very light bamboo material. And, I gave it to my daughter because it had some Jalandhar golf course badge here, and she removed that on a red band. This is the RIMC badge that she produced.
Yes. Yes.
Now you can see through this. It's got a lot of holes in it. It's made of a sort of the inside of a bamboo.
Oh,
Remember when the British were here, we used to wear those solar
yeah,
togas.
yeah, absolutely.
They had pit, called PITH inside.
Correct, correct.
That's from bamboo. It keeps your head cool.
Right.
Actually, the British, their brains were not cool, their head was cool.
Ah,
And there was an old saying that at 2:30 in the afternoon, the heat of North India, mad dogs and Englishmen can do the same thing about. Everybody else was in the shade trying to take it to siesta. Now, Nivedita, we were talking about my going to the staff college,
yes.
and Shruti and I reached there. There was a friend of my father-in-law, Dr. Bharkat Ram, who was a Mr. Ramakrishna.
Hmm.
He used to come to Jammu, stuff from Madras, as it is known as now Chennai, okay, and give it to people in Jammu to sell and to stay in our house because he knew Dr. Bharkat Ram, my father-in-law, very well.
Hmm.
We all used to have that nice single malt Scotch whiskey in the evening. And he came to know that I'm coming to Chennai. So he said, if you have to go to Wellington, you have to change trains in Chennai. And that's a bit of a problem because you take a local train which goes to a place called Metupalayam,
Hmm.
which is near Coimbatore, right?
Correct. Ah.
That's the railhead, and then you have to get into a bus or a car to go up the mountain of the Nilgiris to reach Staff College, because from the height of the plains, which
Hmm.
is about 200 feet above the sea level, go up to 8,000 feet. See? So, because there's Uttarakhand further up, but Wellington comes on the way, and another
Yeah.
big town is Kannur. Most fantastic scenery.
Hmm.
And in the heat of India, the British developed Uttarakhand and Wellington as military stations because it was pleasant weather, both in the summer and in the winter. It was not too hot in the summer and it was not cold in the winter. So it is a very beautiful place, and there's Metropolitan is the railhead, and you have to drive up.
Hmm.
So we stayed with Mr. Ramakrishna for 3 days.
Hmm.
Then he returned in his car. And now there was a lot of language problem in India in those days. If you recollect, Jawaharlal Nehru, who had tried to bring the three language formula.
Hmm.
He said Hindi would be the national language,
Hmm.
English should be the linked language,
Hmm.
and the third language you have to learn is your mother tongue, whatever it is.
Right.
There are a lot of objections to this.
Hmm.
South India, East India, West India, because everybody loves the language and their mother tongue, and there's a lot of agitation. More about that later because it was a very serious situation.
Yeah.
The set of agitations that took place, if you recollect, in the earlier years after India got its independence, was that there used to be provinces earlier as divided by the British with governors. Now, Jawaharlal, I think, wanted to maintain those provinces, their boundaries interspersed the various present states. We've got almost 26 states now and a number of union territories. In those days, there were about 6 or 7 provinces. Now, but there was a huge agitation about having linguistic provinces.
Right.
So Jawaharlal attempted that we should not divide ourselves with languages. What happened is that there was a lot of agitation, and the chap in Andhra, that's near Hyderabad,
Hmm.
he went on fast on to the death.
Hmm.
And eventually the poor chap died. And there was so much agitation all over this country that Jawaharlal had to agree to linguistic provinces. Now, by the way, we are the only country in the world which has these 26, 27, or whatever year number of states,
Hmm.
each with a separate language.
Yes.
We've got in the Constitution of India something like 23 languages which are accepted as part of the Constitution. So, in addition, we've got about 750 languages which are well spoken all over India. If you really go into the dialects and languages, then we go to 5 or 6,000 of them.
Yeah.
The only example in the world where you have one country under one central government is so many different of languages and linguistic states and separate cultures in each of these. It's a thing to note because it's unique. For instance, as an example to the world, if one day in the distant future, if ever there is a single word on the pattern of the Indian government,
Hmm.
because there's so many various cultures and languages and differences in geography and history and culture. Anyway, I stayed with Mr. Ramakrishna for 3 days, and I must tell you, it was one of the more delightful experiences.
Hmm.
I had. Before you entered the house, you have to remove your shoes.
Hmm.
And nobody was allowed to enter the kitchen. You could view it from outside.
Hmm.
So the ladies at the house, there was a wife and 2 daughters. Only they were permitted, and before entering the kitchen, they had to have a bath.
Correct.
Since North Indians are dirty people, they don't have baths that often. They're not allowed to come anywhere near the kitchen. But I was interested to see what goes on there. Now, inside the kitchen, everything was made of stainless steel,
Hmm. Hmm.
you name it. And the best product there, besides the strictly vegetarian food, vast variety of vegetarian and food.
Hmm.
Right? Which is the experience you know, it's
Yes.
very different. And filter coffee.
Yes.
First made by the ladies, and it is a dish on top of a dish, and the upper dish has holes in it.
Yes.
Yes, and you put the coffee seeds, etc., in the upper dish, and it filters down into the lower dish, and then it is served. Now I like my coffee hot, so I told the lady, I said, this has become a little less than hot. I mean, she says, no, the taste of this coffee has to be drunk as it is.
Hmm.
So he did, the taste was good. So I had to learn to drink not so much coffee because that was the taste. Everything in the skin side, cleanliness, the careful selection of ingredients, and the people you like to see, right? Very careful attention to all this. So everybody there was very well fed and all vegetarian dishes. And the best part of camel, which I know a bit because I come from a South Indian regiment, 15 cavalry, South Indian classes. So we had a smattering of Tamil because we had a large number of Tamilians and Kerala.
Okay.
Was Yadi and Tamil. And since initially the percentage of Tamils was more, the regimental language was Tamil.
Okay.
So it's not necessary that the other South Indian classes understand Tamil. Many of them do now, but in those days, in 1950, when I joined the regiment, not necessary that the Tamilian would understand what the Kerala chap is saying, or what the Andhra chap is saying, or
Right.
what the Cool chap is saying, or Karnataka chap is saying, or the Telugus and Kurd and the Tamil and Malayali and so on. I knew a reasonable amount, enough to impress the hearer.
Okay.
So we managed to get on very well. They had broken English, so we managed to converse. And Mr. Raman was, of course, knew English very well. And Suki and I had a delightful stay for 3 months. He put us on the train for Metropolitan, and we arrived at Metropolitan. The car could not be taken because I didn't know how to drive to Madras from Kapurthala, where we were. I bought a car, and we put that into a wagon which the army permits. Because the staff college course was for a year's posting. And if you have a longer posting, the government permits you to take a railway wagon on government cost and take your car down there. So that was due to arrive after about 10 days. When we reached our college, we were very well received. It's a very well organized place. It is extremely good. There's a big town called Panur nearby, which is lower in height. And another 10, 15 kilometers or 20 kilometers up the road, you reach Udrakamat, which is a very famous installation for it. Udrakamat must have been about 8,500 feet tall. And Wellington, where we were mostly a military station, the Staff College plus the Madras Regimental Center. Madras Regiment is a very big regiment of the Indian Army. They occupy the accommodation on the hill of Wellington. They allotted houses to you because they were married people. And you had to, before joining the Staff College, in your joining instructions, you had to put the fact that you are married and you have any children, etc. And we had and the fact that you had a car or you didn't have a car. And according to that, they placed you in houses all around in Kannur.
Okay.
And there are not many houses in Wellington itself. You have to go into Kannur town. And because I was from the Armored Corps, the Armored Corps is very highly mobile compared to others. But we are on the battlefield because we're on tanks, everybody else on the field. Trucks, that's all. Not as mobile as the Air Force. Farthest house down, I mean, I think it was not less than about 8 miles. That would take us to about 12 or 13, 14 kilometers. And there's no car for the first 2-3 weeks. My wife got stuck there. Went and occupied this house. And secondly, it was far away. I mean, we went to the bigger outskirts of Kannur, where the tea garden started. The hills started going downwards. And the gardens were there. And this was the track that went to the tea garden. And on a dirt road, my wife was most displeased about this. So there's a house about 500 yards above us, which is the owner's house, Mr. Jaffa.
Okay.
And then said, we think it's a very lonely house and we want to change it. He said, nothing to do with me. I've offered this house to the Staff College, they've accepted it, I'm getting my rent. But to refer to the Staff College. And we got no transport, etc., and it's very difficult to move around. We got a couple of taxis here, so we can hire taxis for you to go to your work. After I arrived, I had to do that. And then my wife insists to stay alone in this house because she's all alone. There's not a human being in sight for a number of kilometers all around. And she's very social on his phone. So there was a Wellington Gymkhana club. A valley with a very lovely golf course. It used to be in my time, but now it's about 18 holes. And it goes into the valley, climbs up to the ridge lines, and then goes down into the valley again. And in that area, there's a lot of downs, cricket field, and so on. And there's a clubhouse. The Wellington Gymkhana Club, very famous place. It had a ballroom, it had a bar, it had some eating place, nice toilets, restrooms. So I deposited her there and attend my classes. When you get disgusted in your house, it's not easy to carry on with your normal work. So, in the Staff College, you are in charge of, I think I've told you this, you're in charge of a single instructor. In my time, a lieutenant colonel, because we were all captains and majors. I was a major. In fact, I've just been promoted. The other jets are captains. And there are people from the Navy of similar rank and from the Air Force. But they had separate classrooms. We had separate classrooms. There were certain combined studies, but otherwise we were all there. And socially, we all used to meet. And my first tutor, I remember a person called Lieutenant Colonel Anand Mathur. And because he was up to Army Commander, he's from the Civil Corps. And very meticulous in the way he conducted the discussions. Now, the first tutorial, as we call it, under this staff quality, lasts about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, under him. And the instructor writes a very detailed reports on you, which you don't know about. But he assesses you as per your conduct and answers and discussion in the class. The job of the instructor is to create discussion in the class, not to pontificate himself, but rather set a problem and see what the class has to think about it. You see? And every instructor has what are known as pinks. That means he's got the précis on which he is giving the talk, or rather conducting the class. And there are set of pink pages which he gets the students drawn, which is only for the eyes of the person who is the instructor, directing staff, so that he knows what the directing staff think about that particular problem. Now, every problem in life may not have the same solution, if you will agree with me. And what the directing staff is posed to the student officers and what his pinks say may not be what is agreed to by the discussion of the group. You see how it is done? There are not more than 10 officers in the group. And since the total strength was about, in my time, about 60 or 70, so there were 7 or 8 separate instructors.
Right.
And what happens after 3 or 4 weeks, it's a 10-month course. So after about 3 weeks, you change your directing staff and you're posted ad hoc. Those who together under the first tutorial are posted ad hoc to others. The next set of, or rather discussing the next set of problems. Problems first, which Anand Mathur was doing for us, is what is known as the staff duties. Staff duties mean that when you become a staff officer in the military, when you are serving under the commander's job is to go and fight or do thing, train, whatever it is. Your job is to convey his decisions and orders in writing to the next set of below, for which you must be very brief and at the same time very explicit in what you say. In the projection of military instructions, etc., you don't need for padding and things like that, so nobody bothers about it. That's the orders and the reasons, if any, and that's all. And time by which it has to be done. And the officer should not only convey this, but also to check that you're doing it, and thirdly, to report back to his commander if you have done it or failed to do it or not done it too well. So staff training is very important. It starts off at a major level, and then goes up as you go up and right up to a general level in the army headquarters, there's staff officer. And when you become the army chief, you're known as the chief of army staff. In other words, you're the senior staff officer to the government, to the defense minister, if you please, or the cabinet, to carry out the various instructions of government in the military. The command is the army commanders and corps commanders, the brigade commanders, the division commanders. What about it? It takes you a little time to understand all this. Maybe when we have more time, so you have very well organized. Based on British organizations, some changes that we ourselves have introduced, right? Most armies are organized. In these staff duties, many of the cadets who came, they were not cadets, but officers too, were not so voluble in the English language. There's no restraint in our country, by the way, for your knowledge of it. If you pass examinations and you're not good in the language, it doesn't matter because you express yourself in Hindi or whatever. In the army, English is quite prevalent. And nevertheless, some people don't have that good expression. So a lot of effort is made to try and improve that expression, the meaning of sentences and words, you see, and that gives you training. Secondly, there is a very large number of papers that a staff officer has to study,
Right.
voluminous.
Okay.
To write a brief, as it is called,
Hmm.
for your superior.
Which are not briefs.
Reduce tons of papers into a single sheet.
Ah,
As an adult, I must tell you, later on in life, if you have to send a paper, let us say, to the Prime Minister of India, it cannot be more than half a page of a
right.
normal sheet. So whatever you have to say have to be said in that half a page. He's got no time to see anything more. Right? So this is the training for it. So you have to reduce the thing to brief. That means the art of reduction of voluminous documents into simple paragraphs and sentences which connect each other logically and convey the point. Every sentence must give a point, and the paragraph will give the overall theme that you're discussing. The next paragraph will give you that, and then one or two paragraphs is enough. Nobody wants to read more than that. But the third point is that if you have got voluminous documents, how many hours are you to study them?
Hmm.
So the thing called speed reading.
Right.
You may have come across that. Now, speed reading is that you practice on newspapers where the eye stands must take in 6 or 7 words or a sentence in one go. Instead of
Correct.
reading every 6 or 7 sentences one go and then go down far, you would have timing. When you read a full paragraph, you must know what that paragraph said. Now, some people write luminously. They're making one point, but they make 10 sentences to create that one point. But you have to reduce to a few words, right? This is the art of taking a large amount of writing and quickly getting to it. Now, you can't be too fast. I mean, like, I don't know if you read a book called Gone with the Wind.
Yes, of course.
That's it.
Yes.
It was about 1,500 pages. Right? Somebody who asked, after you've done the staff college, have you read this book?
Yeah.
Gone with the Wind? He says, yes. He says, did you practice your speed reading?
Hmm.
Of course. How long did it take you? 5 minutes. What's it about?
Yeah.
It's about Scarlett O'Hara. That's all. Not that you just whiz through something without getting it here. You have to know exactly what is sent in each paragraph, in each chapter, and so on. Okay? So we go through all that. Now, this is very interesting because a large amount of military writings have got a certain method of writing. So that is also. Now, since some of our officers were slow, and then modules take a long time. Let us say that the class is required to finish at 1:30 in the afternoon, having started at 8. Right? We kept on asking questions. We keep on answering. It became 2:30, it became 3 o'clock. And my wife was waiting in the club, was hopping mad because there it was. She's supposed to have her lunch and this soldier had to come back and pick her up and whatever it is and take her back to the home. And he did till 3 o'clock, 3:30, he did too. And other activities and stuff. There's a lot of sports, there's golf, there's riding, there's sailing, there's so many things, there are parties. So you get late for all that. So I asked my mother, I said, don't you think we could finish by 1:30 every day? He said, see, Major, how the point is, if somebody asks a question, I am duty bound to answer it. So now, since I was in charge as a sort of a monitor in the class, I got this class together, 10 officers, 9 officers other than myself. I said, 1:30 the class is to finish. Anybody who asks a question after 1 o'clock, I shall mark a black spot against his name. I nominate it. And you will have to spare 1 bottle of beer to the whole class after lunch or in the evening time. So I have to bucket how many bottles of beer everybody has to done because people are trying to impress the directing staff. So, excuse me, what about this or something? Idiotic question. Well, the result, these 10 officers had a lot of beer to drink every day. See? But the result was that we managed to stop asking questions after 1 o'clock. So Mr. Anand Mathur could finish off by 1:30, and my wife was a happier person. Meanwhile, Shruti got very friendly in the club with other directing staff. Now, the directing staff in the staff college are ones who take instructional classes on the one side. Then there are others who are in charge of tactics and others checking exercises and problems of exercises. There are certain problems that are set, which are done by these gentlemen and presented in a class for you to answer within so much time.
Okay.
And they finished at 1 o'clock, 12:30. They land up at the club, especially two of them were bachelors.
Hmm.
There was called JFR Jacob.
Hmm.
There's a person called Harry Signal. Jacob was from the artillery, and he was directing staff for tactical exercise, right? He didn't take a class, but whenever there was an exercise, he came onto the scene. Harry Shingle was from the Garbal Rifles, and he was in charge of infantry problems. Now, they had nothing to do. They were hanging around in the club because they didn't have wives, and so they were staying in the club. They found this very attractive young lady sitting over there, and she said, "Just a minute, you, this I'm so and so. Where's your husband? He's sitting in Colonel Mathur's class, not coming to 3:30.
Yeah.
He said, come on, we'll give you lunch, yes, we'll do that." So my wife got on very well with these two gentlemen, and they both used to play bridge. And they were looking for partners because if you play bridge, you need a foursome. If you don't have a foursome, a minimum of threesome. People can play, but not so happily. But for the requirement, so they pick up another directing staff, and Surubi Shujan is very good at it, which is end up and became very friendly with these people. I was rather concerned about this because, you know, when you're a student officer, you don't want to get too close to the other person. You should not get the impression that you're trying to sort of, you know, impress them through your wife or something like that. This had a lot of effects later on in life. I'll explain as I go on, because, you know, the army carries on. And as you grow senior, these relationships count for a lot. We had in the staff college a large number of people who did not have transport. They used to come up bicycle, to hire bicycle. So we were all together in a place called circular quarters, one above the other. They had a very good social activity. In my case, because I had such a difficult house, I raised a complaint to Colonel Mathur to say that I want to change my house. So this matter was taken. He said, "Why do you want to change your house?" I said, "Too far away." He said, "So what?" But my car had arrived meanwhile. He said, "Got a car?" I said, "No, but my wife is all alone and she's disgusted. And she's got as much right to have a social life in the premises, the staff college, in the club, and so on, as anyone else. So why should we send to such a direction?" So he said that, you know, you're a soldier and you don't worry about your wife. I think a happy home, you know, makes a more soldier. And I don't agree with you that home can be left aside without consideration. So I said, well, if you're so interested, you have to write in writing as to the reason that you want to change your house. And since there are no more houses available, or they're all full, what you suggest should be done in case a house cannot be provided. I wrote this out and I said, I'm the only case ever in the history of staff college to write a letter like this or an appeal to say, I want to change my house for the following reasons. If this cannot be done, I should be removed from the staff college and sent back to my village. Now, this last sentence, when he read, and before putting up to the higher authorities of the staff college, he said, "You know that this is going to affect your career." I said, "In what way?" He says, "Because it's very difficult for an officer to get into the staff college in the first place. It's a competitive examination all India, right? You've got it, which is credit to you.
Right.
But if you decide to be pissed off on a mere point of a house in the first 2 months, let us say, then lose that opportunity of career advancement. And these other fellows, will go up in life and you get left behind. I said, so if I get left behind, that's my kismat and I'm ready to accept that.
Okay.
Part of my kismat is to keep a happy home and I'm going to ensure that. So I will certainly go back home and I've already written to my commanding officer to say that I've got this problem here and if they don't do what I want to do, I am going to come back to the regiment. He's taken aback. He says, I don't advise you to take this action, but should you do it? Yes, you'll be posted back to the regiment. We'll happily receive you back. I also informed my father, because my father is a military man. He retired, I think he was still serving. No, I think by this time he retired. Because I got into college in 1962, he retired in 1953. But he's very well known. He retired at the topmost rank in the medical corps. Very okay. Now, the commandant of the staff college at that time was Major General Sam Mannix, who later became famous army chief.
Yes.
Sam was from the Gurkhas, and he was a delightful person to hear because, whenever there were tactical problems and he used to intervene and say a few points, it was delightful to hear what he used to say. A man of much experience, and all cadets, including all officers, including student officers, including foreigners, would really look forward to what General Mannix would say about any subject. See? So, and the person in charge of the directing staff was a full colonel called Rotra. He was smoky. Why it was smoky, don't ask me. But he was a very smart officer from the Guards, 6'2" tall. And he'd been the adjutant of the Indian Military Academy when I was a senior officer passing out, which he riding on a white horse. And we had gone through his hands as far as discipline and conduct is concerned and turnout and so on. So he called me to his office. He said, you're a petty fool of the first order. I said, I want you to withdraw this letter. I said, I'm not going to withdraw. What happens if I don't put it up? I said, it's your duty to put it up to the commandant. So you do that. Then if the commandant decides against it, I said, then please pack me off. I'll take the next train back to Madrid. He said, you're a bigger fool than I thought. I said, so now it is Sam Mannix, and he meanwhile got a letter from my father also that I don't know what you staff college people are doing. Here's my son who's got into staff college and he wanted to leave because you can't even give him a proper house. So Sam had that mail. So when my letter arrived, he wrote on the letter, yes, we will give another house to this officer. There was a beautiful house in Wellington, just next to the officer's mess called Woodbine. The Woodbine had 4 bedrooms, huge bedrooms, drawing room, dark dining rooms, 4 or 5 bathrooms, and 6 or 7 smaller rooms for dhobis and ayahs, servants, the directing staff house. But what had happened is that some years earlier, one of the directing staff had got ill and died away. So none of the directing staff wanted to go live there because they said his ghost is hanging around. Funnily enough, no, that in every house, you have servants already there. People want jobs, and cook, a beggar. You have to pay them the money, a reasonable amount, and many of them refuse to work in this house. Most directing staff had refused the house, is lying empty. And said, this is a house available. It's one of the best directing staff houses in the whole of the staff college, but it was haunted. So in that, since it's empty. So Colonel Malhotra told him, but this is a directing staff house, it's not meant for students. He said, yes, you're right, it's not meant for students, but it's the directing staff refused to live in it. It's lying empty, up to accommodation, right? So why don't we utilize it and give it to the student officer since he's ready to go there? So Colonel Malhotra asked me, it's a haunted house, you want to go there? I said, I'm not bothered about ghosts. I'll get on well with them. I don't mind. So we were 6 feet straight next to the staff college mess. Absolutely central. Walking distance to my classroom, walking distance to the golf club. So we were all very happy. And I spent the rest of my, it was supposed to be a 10-month course, but it was curtailed because of the Chinese attack in 1962. So now I want to tell you about the Chinese attack in 1962.
If
And
we get disconnected, General, we connect back again, okay?
yeah,
Yes,
so
please continue.
I, I found I was in Woodbine. Since it's a large house, I had to throw a lot of parties amongst various other student clubs. And just to invite us back. Social activity, very good.
Hmm.
It's about, it is my conduct. I found that officers from infantry and artillery and others, very hardworking. You've got to be hardworking if you want to do well in your life. But not only were they hardworking, but if you invited them for a party in the evening, many times they say, sorry, I'm studying for tomorrow's work. Like they wouldn't come. Meanwhile, there are a lot of facilities in staff college, such as riding. In the riding, we had about 10 or 15 horses, very nice horses with cavalry dafadas. Dafadas is a police sniper, managing the thing, training how to ride, training your children how to ride, training your wife how to ride, right? So I felt that one has to take advantage of this. There's a beautiful golf course, you have to play golf. And we were not very good players then, but we had to learn. A lot of parties you have to attend because if you meet so many people, one of the important things, in my view at least, of your conduct in the life, in your life, is your association with others.
Right.
And if you're on a good net with others, in a happy net with others, and you feel much more satisfied in life rather than sitting quietly in your room with a light in the middle of the night and studying these books. There's piles and piles of books. I mean, how much can you study? So I and my wife, since she's very social, we attended every party. I attended golf almost every evening. And if there were dance party, both of us ended up in dancing till early hours. And yet, I was one of the brightest students in the directing staff's class next morning. So many of my friends used to ask me, "Yeah, hello, Bacha, you must be having a hell of a brain." I said,
Ah,
"Why?
ah,
You don't do anything, you're enjoying your life, and yet you know all your work backwards." I said, "Well, I'm an average human being. It's just a question of managing yourself properly." But what I must tell you is that I spent 2 hours at night, from let us say 12 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning. Now, when you look at a précis or a large amount of documents, you don't have to read the whole thing. You want to read the introduction and the conclusion, right?
ah.
And make up your mind as to whether this chap who's written the document, or the précis as it is called, talking with some sense in his head, or is he talking what you call bullshit? Note down the point that you disagree with it. And the directing staff is asking you, saying, look, I don't quite agree with so and so thing. Maybe that's the paragraph you read, but it's just, this chap says it's baloney, it should be like this. And then the discussion would take place in class. Some people for, some people against. There are many people who want to say what the précis says because that impresses the director, right? Yeah, many people got their own views and couldn't give a damn. I happen to be in the latter quality. I said, no, people for that I studied this very hard. Now there's an old cavalry saying which I want to part with you since you are handling students. You can impress anyone you like by an ego expression on your face, pile of books under your arm and moving fast between point A and point B. But is life supposed to be impression to others? You have to be superior. To be superior, you don't have to talk. If you become superior, everybody can see from a distance that you are superior. Right? So that, yes, a certain amount of study is necessary, but don't involve yourself in studying every word in every sentence. I mean, that's a waste of time. Best of writers on earth